Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Javier Alvarez. I am the chairman of the British Argentine Chamber of Commerce. We are here connected from our offices at the Argentine Embassy in London. We welcome all of you to this webinar of this afternoon. And we have this afternoon the company of two very interesting speakers from Argentina. We have Juan Manuel Porcaro, who is the managing director of ARCAP, which is the Argentine Association of Venture Capital. And we have Lorena Andrea Suarez, who is managing partner at Alaya Capital and country manager at Guaira. So thank you very much, Juan Manuel and Lorena, for joining from Argentina. Basically, the BACC, the British Argentine Chamber of Commerce, is a non-for-profit British limited company with headquarters here in the UK that has as a main objective to promote businesses and projects between Argentina and the United Kingdom. We've been established in the early 1990s, and we have a network of around 90 members from individuals, companies, and professionals that bring together quite an interesting community of people with already experience in Argentina or people and companies looking at opportunities in Argentina. We are quite in a very interesting time, we could say from an institutional point of view, because Argentina is going through a national election process this year. From a wider perspective, we are quite an interesting time in a world where we are living from a pandemic, where we have the bellic conflict within the European territory, and where we have a pressing need to find alternative to deal with climate change and all the related challenges regarding the change of businesses and technologies for addressing that subject. And in that specific regard, we believe that, for instance, with energy transition, there are lots of opportunities where Argentina and UK once more, like 100 years ago, when UK brought the railway infrastructure to Argentina, and Argentina put an incredible competitive capacity for generating commodities to generating one of the biggest hubs of production of food of the world. But nowadays, we believe that the UK and the region has a very interesting capacity of technology to address subjects such as energy transition. And Argentina has an incredible human capital and an incredible natural resources capital, going for instance, for issues such as the critical minerals deposit that the country have, to show that there are a lot of things that it could happen again in the same way. And it's there where the venture capitals, entrepreneurs, and the community that Juan Manuel and Lorena bring together in the association accompany this process from different sectors and different activities with an approach that probably can speed up many of these processes of transformation. So very happy to have you here. I will give the floor to Juan Manuel Porcaro, Managing Director of ARCAP, who could start sharing with us, well, a little more about the institution and your vision about Argentina and Latin America.
Thank you, Susana. Thank you, Javier, for hosting this conversation. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juan Manuel Porcaro. I'm the Executive Director of ARCAP, which stands for the Argentine Association of Venture Capital and Private Equity. However, today I'm here in my capacity as co-leader of a regional roundtable, a collaborative platform that connects 12 associations of venture capital and private equity firms across Latin America, representing more than 300 venture capital funds. Our primary objective is to foster integration and coordination among these associations, eliminating inefficiencies and facilitating investors of landing when willing to invest or understand, create, or capture value. Each of these funds possess diverse expertise and investment theses, representing different industries, verticals, and investment tickets, from agnostic to deep grade of specialization. Funds are very close, working collaboratively to boost entrepreneurs from one country to the other in their way to growth, achieve internationalization and global sales. Latam has a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem with resilient and talented entrepreneurs willing to create global companies. Why Latam? Despite contributing 6.5% of the global GDP, receives a mere 2% of global venture capital investments. This represents an underinvested geography with significant opportunities. When considering its 50 unicorns, high rates of internet penetration, smartphone adoption, and the common structural challenges faced by its 650 million inhabitants, of which 450 million are Spanish-speaking, the prospects become even more compelling. So this is maybe like a very brief introduction to what we are going to cover today. And as you can see in this, this is a very brief snapshot about our CAP, representing nowadays in Argentina 82 members, going from private equity to venture capital to corporate venture capital, family offices, incubators, accelerators, and angels. And this is a very brief example of all the firms that we are covering nowadays. Let me present you to Lorena Suarez, President of ARCAP and General Partner of Alaya Capital.
Thank you, Juan Manuel, and thank you very much for the invitation. It's a really pleasure for me to be here sharing the opportunities we see in Latin America in terms of entrepreneurship and also in terms of venture capital. Here I will share with you some of the aspects we see as an opportunity in Latin America, and also sharing with you what we believe is the evolution of the venture capital industry in Latin America. But just to begin, let me give you some numbers about Latam at a glance. Latam is a huge region. It represents around 8% of the global GDP, and we have more than 100 million people living in this region, which makes us a huge market to do businesses. We also, and when we think about venture capital, entrepreneurship, and about, in general, digital adoption, we have favorable demographics because around 30% of the population in Latam is young. So it helps a lot in adoption of new innovative digital products. We have competitive costs in terms of labor and another cost, and also technological workforce, which helps to create technological startups from the region or to the world. And it's really interesting also for firms like ours, the venture capital industry, to invest in these entrepreneurs. Generally, let me show you also Latin America is a fertile space to do business because in terms of smartphone adoption, Latin America is in level of the most developed countries and regions. And when we compare the purchase power in terms of GDP per capita in Latin America, comparing with other emerging markets, it also has a high level of power purchase to also adopt digital products, comparing, of course, with other emerging markets. And not only smartphone adoption is high, also internet penetration and the behavior of the users and the behavior of the population in the internet usage. So I think that we have seen in the last 10, 15 years, the acceleration of the penetration of internet and infrastructure that helps this big amount of population, this around 600, more than 600 million people living in Latin America, adopt technology, not only in terms of consumers, but also in terms of digital transformation of companies. And we believe that the digital transformation is still on track because we also have seen a huge acceleration of the technology adoption in B2B and B2C companies or businesses after the COVID we lived worldwide. So in terms of markets, it's a very interesting market, Latin America as a whole, to create products, digital products, because we are seeing adoption, and I will show you later how the companies and startups are growing in the region. But there is a market, and a huge market, and we believe still unattended in terms of digital adoption or digital products as offered. And all of this, we can see how it reflects in the amount of money invested in the venture capital space on in the technological companies. Here you can see how the venture capital investment evolved in Latin America during the last 12 years. And we can see that even though 2021 was an exceptional year because of the context and because of the that we've seen, 2022 has shown also a continued increase in the amount invested in technological startups, in technological companies. And we have seen in the last 12 years an amount increased, but over 100 times in terms of amount invested in companies. And still, if the region is still an underserved region in terms of venture capital, because if we compare the ratio of GDP in Latam versus the global GDP, it represents around 6.5% of the global GDP. And if we see that ratio comparing venture capital investments and venture capital investment globally, it represents only 2%. So there's still huge space to continue growing in the amount of money investing in this kind of companies. That in terms of venture capital firms is a great opportunity, because in this industry, when you start investing first, you create reputation and you can catch the upside of this growing industry. What has left us these last 12 years, we have seen that more than 150 new venture capital firms were created in the last only 2 years. So it shows the opportunity of investing in technological companies in the region. And here there are some logos as an example of the big amount of venture capital firms investing in this space all over Latin America. If you go to Crunchbase, which is a huge database of the industry, and you search for venture capital firms investing in Latin America, you will find more than 185 venture capital firms, only venture capital firms. I'm not counting accelerators, venture angels, company builders, and some other investors. So if we look back 10 years ago, this ecosystem didn't exist at all. So we are seeing a great opportunity growing silently in the region and giving us the opportunity to invest and to create companies and do businesses and create value in this region where there are a lot of structural problems to solve, and these kind of companies can solve them. And there's not only early stage venture capital firms. We have seen this year in this context, even the communication of new funds launched this year in 2023, investing also in growth stage. So nowadays, a startup can find investors that can help them create their businesses, scale regionally, and open new markets in the early stage period, but also in the growth period, which shows how the ecosystem is evolving and is growing. The opportunity is here, and there are entrepreneurs catching and capturing this opportunity. What I've seen in the last 5 years, I would say that the venture ecosystem and the entrepreneurial ecosystem has evolved. If we wanted to see this picture 10 years ago, we can only see, I believe, the two logos, Mercado Libre, which is the Latin America marketplace. It's the eBay or the Amazon in Latin America. We could see Despegar, Globant, and not many more companies. In the last 4 or 5 years, 50 new unicorns, companies valuing over $1 billion, has been created in the region. And this not only shows the opportunity of investing in these companies that create value and capture value and make us, the investors, do good businesses, but this only shows how the entrepreneurial ecosystem has grown, because these companies have first employees that go and start a new venture, and they have more experience, they have more network, they have experiences of creating exponential companies. So the probability of success becomes higher in this kind of ecosystem, where we've seen that has grown and matured during the last year. And even though we are seeing a winter in the venture capital scene because of the context of the increase of the interest rate globally, and because of the bellic situation we are living, and the increase of the commodities and prices internationally, even though we see that the companies continue growing, and also we are seeing new sectors where the entrepreneurs are solving problems. Just to give you an example, fintech continues being the most important vertical invested in the region. Well, there's huge structural opportunities and problems to solve in the region in terms of unbanked population and solving financial problems in the region. But we also are seeing opportunities in retail tech, prop tech, food tech, HR tech, and also we are seeing new sectors where the entrepreneurs are solving problems from the region, but aiming to impact globally and solve global problems, such as energy, clean tech, well, biotech, and construct tech that has been growing rapidly during the last year. And here I brought a report that has been published recently, led by IDB, where we are also seeing a new ecosystem of deep tech entrepreneurs solving problems in the region and also venture capital firms specializing in investing in these kind of problems and these kind of startups where, as we can see as an example, biotech is more than 50, well, almost more than 60% of the entrepreneurial activity. So we are also seeing other verticals and other kind of entrepreneurs, not only solving problems, Latin American problems or regional problems, but also having the opportunities to solve global problems and huge problems. And this, as a consequence, is a big opportunity to invest in them and to capture also this opportunity as investors. And as I mentioned, even though we are living a winter in venture capital, that the amount of venture capital invested in startups has decreased, not only in Latin America, but also globally. We see that the companies are still growing. Almost 50% of the companies during this first quarter in Latin America has grown more than almost more than 90%, and 23 around 51 and 90, which is shown that the adoption still strong in Latin America, because those startups solving structural problems still grow because the problems here in Latin America still exist. Of course, there has been a new focus on profitability because of this winter, and the companies don't want to grow at any cost. But we are also seeing adoption and growth in this kind of companies. And well, finally, this has been also a pending theme in Latin America, the exits and distributions of the companies. And we have seen that the exits, the merger and acquisition opportunities have also grown during the last years. There's an opportunity in this context to consolidate regionally, and we are seeing acquisitions and strategies of these kind of companies growing unorganically, acquiring competitors. But we are also seeing interesting M&A processes, and well, in some cases IPOs in the past, where we can see as an investor that the money not only is invested in the companies, but it's also distributed after the investment period to their investors. So, well, finally, I wanted to close with this. A mature ecosystem can be identified when venture capital associations, such as RCAP in Argentina, is created, because we became an industry when we need an association that help us to represent us locally and internationally. The same, this is a picture. We have in Latin America many local associations, and also a Latin American association that represents us all, which is LAVCA. So having all these kind of associations here, we represent Argentina, but we also work together with all the other ones. It's a sign that the ecosystem is maturing. And just to finish, we are here to connect you, all of the audience that want to know more about the Latin America venture capital opportunities.
Thank you very much, Lorena. Very interesting, your presentation, a lot of data, metrics I'm sure it will be very useful for the audience. Well, we are in the second largest or longest day of the summer here. So I appreciate very much that we have around 25 people following us online. So they decide to be not in the sunshine, but in some room following the event. So let's take advantage of the next 15 minutes that we have for the event to share your questions. So please feel free to place your question and comments.
I have one question here, Javier, one of the people connected, that is, if VC funds in our CAP are only investing in startups in Latin America, or are also investing in startups outside Latin? I don't know, Lore, if you feel comfortable answering.
Yes, of course. Well, as I mentioned, we have many, we have 82 members. So I cannot give one answer for all of the members, but I can say that those funds investing in deep tech and in startups solving global problems in general, not only invest in Latin America, they invest globally. And on the other side, many of the funds also understand the region and understand what are the problems in the region. So probably most of them also see investment opportunities abroad, especially in startups that want to come to Latin America and solve problems and offer their products. In general, that's a good match of investment, investing abroad to solve problems in the region, where in general, the general partners or the managing partners know better the field.
Somebody has said if everybody can mute their mic, that it will be helpful, because there are some noises otherwise. But I got a question, taking advantage that my mic is unmute. It's very interesting, Lorena, to see during your presentation that there are some long-standing companies that are now, playing their beat onto the venture capital. And for instance, I saw there are some of the oldest dairies companies of Argentina, those involved with insurance, that they are also being part of that, or also all traditional logistic and transport company that's also involved in that. So how do you see the process where the opportunities for long-standing companies associated with some traditional businesses to work in this with these new tools and opportunities that the venture capital world provides?
I will give you a quick answer, and we'll ask Juan Manuel to complement, because we have many corporate members part of our CAP. Because what we are seeing is that open innovation now has become a must for long-standing companies, or for corporations, or for incumbents. Nowadays, what we've seen is that innovation is not only created into the company or as an M&A strategy, acquiring capacities or acquiring talent as a strategy for innovate, but also investing in this kind of exponential companies that can add capabilities, that can have clients, that can help the company to go to new markets, or have new technologies within their processes. So as you mentioned, I didn't bring it as a distribution of investments in the region, but we are seeing a huge amount of long-standing companies investing in the field, investing directly, and also investing in funds. Some of these companies, what tells us is, I want to understand who will be the next unicorn in my vertical, in my industry. And in that case, I invest directly in the companies I see that are near my strategy or short-term strategy. And I also invest in funds that invest in my vertical, so that I can increase the possibilities or the probability of identify early in time who will be those future competitors, leaders, or new companies, in general technology based in the region that can change my industry or can help me to continue my growing process.
Thank you. I see, Juan Manuel, there is another question that I think is also quite addressed to you.
How does RCAP helps to connect startups with VCs in RCAP? We do this in two ways, mainly. The first one is when entrepreneurs are willing to connect with VCs. We have a catalog with all the theses of the VCs working closely with the RCAP. So we share that document so that the entrepreneurs do the work first to understand which are the VCs that might be interested in investing in that vertical and that has the expertise to invest in that kind of company. So that is maybe the first approach is to facilitate a catalog with the one-pager thesis of each of the funds. And second, with all the 12 associations in Latam, twice a year we have a regional co-investment week where all the startups that has been previously invested by one of these funds that are members of the associations in the region can subscribe their startups that are with our open round to pitch again to all the regional funds in the associations. So that is a very big opportunity that the startups are having, because that guarantees that our startup that had been previously invested, the guarantee of quality and of traction, and that are with our open round and are happy to raise capital from the funds.
Thank you. That was very clear. We have another question. I don't know if you can see the next one, or I can read it to you. What is your experience with IPOs, and do you have any experience with AIM and any London brokers?
Yes, well, we have seen during this last year IPOs. Nubank is a case from Brazil. We also have seen local going public, a fintech Uruguayan company. But I think that this is something that needs to develop in the future. Nowadays is not the best time for going for an IPO, and I think that we will have to wait until what happens in the future with the industry and with the interest rate. We need to see how the industry recovers in terms of public market. But this is something quite brand new for the region. And personally, I haven't have experience with London brokers, so it would be great after this talk to learn more and get in touch. It would be really interesting, I think.
Thank you. We got also some requests of contact detail that, of course, we are going to share later. And we are going to share the information. We got around 9 minutes left. The aim is to finish the event at 1:45. So please, if there are any other questions, but type on the machine, and we will see, and we will be able to try to answer and share with you. One of the data that you shared, Lorena, regarding the venture ecosystem maturity, was this market share for sector, and definitely energy was on top, and somehow it's connected with what I said at the beginning. There is also the clean tech, the bio and construction. Can you share a little more, maybe some peaks on where you see some interesting initiatives in the market, or where you see some specific opportunities are quite open now to considering investing in?
Yes, of course. What we are seeing in terms of venture capital firms is that we are seeing firms specializing in investing in this kind of companies. Here in Argentina, we represent a biotech accelerator, which is called GRIDET, and some other funds such as Cygnus Ventures that specialize in deep tech. So the first thing is that if we have this conversation 3, 2, 4 years ago, perhaps we couldn't say this. So having specialized funds in the regions indicates that we are seeing a deep ecosystem, so that we can create funds and invest specialized in this vertical. Some examples that are from public opinion, we can see Satellogic, for instance. Satellogic started a few years ago. Now it's a public company. It was created here in Argentina, and they decided to launch nano satellites to space from Argentina, from this region. And now they have done it, and they have become a public company. These are the kind of companies that we are seeing that are solving from the region global problems. And we are also seeing opportunities in climate tech, for instance. We are seeing companies specialized in the water space, such as Quilimo, that help farmers to save water, and this is sold to big companies as carbon bonus or carbon credit. So we are seeing all these kinds of companies solving these problems that start and are here in Latam, but they are also in some other regions, which makes them the opportunity bigger.
Yes, certainly definitely the actual physical ground for allowing all this sort of investment approach to happen is there, no? And it's happening, and a lot, again, they have to do with the efficient system for producing food and derivatives, and an efficient system for producing critical minerals for the transition. Juan Manuel, a question to you. We could see a huge network around Latin America of peer institutions such as ARCAP working on the subject. How you see, how you envision in the near future the interaction with other institutions? Are there big events already line up where people could try to explore in their agenda to attend in the region and learn more about the sector?
Yes, for sure, Javier. We are very close, and we are always working for new things to cover. During the first semester of the year, we are doing the Venture Capital Latam Summit in Miami. Last April, we had the 3rd edition, and we had more than 400 VCs from Latin America and almost 100 limited partners around the world, willing to understand and to connect, to do speed dating, to better understand the thesis in Latin America and the opportunities. We are also having this activity that I mentioned previously regarding this regional co-investment week to deliver deal flow to the venture capitals. And we are also doing several webinars and conversations, creating value for our funds, and in different scenarios, creating different commercial missions. This is a good example of how we are trying to support VC in Latin America to gain much more visibility in other continents.
Good, thank you. Well, we got only a few minutes left. It's the last chance if somebody like to type a final question. My final question would be related to the digital transformation and how the process have been accelerated over the last few years. Lorena shared some information on that. The question to the two of you, how you see the region regarding infrastructure for the digital transformation? You think that there is an acceptable bottom line that could allow players entering into all these new ventures related to technology to play a part in the businesses with enough infrastructure to conduct their businesses?
Yes, absolutely. 10 years ago, when we saw the venture capital ecosystem, most of the entrepreneurs were doing what we call copycats. We're going to the States and replicating the same solutions they saw in emerging markets to Latin America. Those are the first unicorns, technological unicorns in the region. And some of the reasons this happened in the past, because the internet adoption were only available for high network families. So the people using internet at that time, their way of consumption, their behavior were in some parts similar to more developed countries. With the advance of the basis of technology adoption, internet penetrations in the home, and smartphone adoption, in general in the population, it gave the opportunity to create, with this infrastructure, fintech solutions with the cybersecurity and the technology needed to do that. This is why we believe, in part, the fintech companies created so many products all over these years. And also the massive adoption of smartphones and the internet in the homes and in the businesses gave the opportunity to solve local problems, big local problems, to most of the population living here in the region. So of course, when we compare technology and infrastructure, Latin America as an emerging market always goes after more developed countries and adopt new technology in general a few years after this kind of region. But nowadays, we can say that the level of connection, the internet adoption, and the internet behavior here in the region is huge enough to continue creating these kind of technologies. And this is one of the reasons we can see this huge amount of money coming to the region and investing from the region to the region in this kind of companies, because the technology is there and the consumers are there. So entrepreneurs see in this kind of ecosystems a huge opportunity to create business.
Very, very interesting. It's good to share, where we go a more diverse audience, and most of them based here in the European continent, to share about the last perception about the relative situation in terms of infrastructure. Finally, well, there is another question, the last question. We are already on time, and it does: what size of investment have you seen on seed startups?
Well, it depends, but in average, Well, we defined pre-seed, seed, and well, then Series A and Series B, and so on. What we are seeing as pre-seed round is around 250K. In the seed space, it's around 500K to 1 million, and then over 1 million in general is the size of Series A we see. It's still a bit lower than other markets if we compare it with the States. When we say Series A in Latam, it's lower than a Series A in the States. Because of the market or the size of the tickets, I think that one of the reasons is that it's not so expensive creating companies here in the region. So the amount of money needed in this kind of series, it's not as high as you could see in more developed countries.
Thanks. Thank you for the answer. Juan Manuel has posted the email addresses of himself, of Juan Manuel, and of Lorena, so everybody can access that through the chat. They want to attend, the people attending. Again, thank you very much to everybody that now can go back to a sunny day here in London and take advantage while it lasts. Thank you very much, Juan Manuel and Lorena, for the time that you invested with us this afternoon. And we look forward to continuing exploring opportunities of doing things together, and hopefully we will have an in-person event in the near future here in the United Kingdom. So thank you again, everybody, and we'll meet again in another event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.